There you go.
Good morning. It's 9 o'clock. And at this time, I would like to call to order the meeting of May 25th, 2022. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance at this time. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, we have public comment for items that are not on the agenda. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I jumped the roll call. Sorry. Janet, could you do the roll call?
Sure, no problem. Commissioner Hansen.
Here.
Commissioner Ketchum.
Here.
Commissioner Gupta.
Here.
Chair Ramirez.
Here.
And staff is represented by Monowitz and Fox.
All right, thank you. All right, now we have public comments for items that are not on the agenda. At this time, Janet will advise the public on how they can participate during public comment.
Thank you, Chair. For those attending the meeting on the Zoom video conference, we will use the raise hand feature in order to organize any public comments. During the general public comment period and for each item on the regular agenda, I will ask those members of the public who wish to comment to click the raise hand feature to raise your hand to speak on that agenda item. For those calling by phone, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak, and I do see a phone number online. Please note that members of the public must wait for my prompt in connection with each agenda item before using the raise hand function. For example, you cannot raise your hand at the beginning of the meeting for an agenda item that is later in the meeting. When you hear your name called, I'll prompt you to unmute your account and you may begin speaking. You would have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, I think at this time I will allow Mr. Monowitz to talk a little bit about item number 5.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, commissioners and everyone attending. So we've received a request from Caltrans to postpone item number 5. It's been suggested that it be rescheduled for the June 22nd meeting. I'll say that that's a preliminary okay on the June 22nd meeting because Mr. Schaller won't be in town for that meeting. So we might need to look at an alternative date, but for purposes of today's meeting, that item has been postponed.
Okay, thank you for that notice. Janet, yeah, do we have anybody you said for this public comment?
I do not see anybody's hand raised for items not on the agenda, or yeah, maybe give them a couple of seconds to see if they raise their hand.
Okay.
So no, Chair.
All right. Unless any of the members object, at this time, I'm going to close public participation. And then we will move to consent agenda. We have 3 items on consent agenda. If anyone of the members want to pull it off the agenda at this time, please do so.
I'd like to postpone the minutes, both sets of minutes, please.
Okay, yes, we can postpone that. Is there a motion for the second 2 items?
So move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Janet, do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Hansen.
Aye.
Commissioner Ketchum.
Aye.
Commissioner Gupta.
Aye.
Chair Ramirez.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Yeah, motion passes for items 2 and 3, and the minutes for the meeting of April 27th and May 11th will be postponed until the next meeting. With that, we can move to item number 4. Janet, can you read it into the record, please?
Sorry. Sure. Item number 4, owner Peninsula Open Space Trust, applicant Mid Peninsula Open Space Trust, Peninsula Open Space Trust, PLN 2021-00381. Location Higgins Canyon Road in unincorporated Half Moon Bay. And our planner this morning is Angela Chavez.
Morning, commissioners. I want to just start off today and apologize. I know this project has a lot of components, but hopefully this presentation will help to clarify all of the elements. All right, so I'm just a brief introduction. I'm going to go over the project's compliance with the general plan, local coastal program, the county zoning regulations, the county's subdivision regulations, Williamson Act, and environmental review. So the subject agricultural lands that are in question here have been acquired by post in an effort to ensure that the agricultural land remains under productive agricultural use. The project includes the legalization of 3 parcels, which are on the left side of the slide, 2, 3, and 4, and subsequent lot line adjustment of the parcel boundaries of those 3, and a 4th parcel, which is identified as number 1 on the left side. So those boundaries will correspond with the existing ongoing agricultural activities, with future plans to transfer these parcels to a long-term agricultural operator. The remaining reconfigured parcel, which is 2, and you can see the reconfiguration on the right-hand side of the screen, will be transferred to Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District to serve as part of their trail network. These parcels are also have existing Williamson Act contracts, and that program requires that existing contracts be modified when you are doing lot line adjustments. So the project also includes the rescindment and replacement of the Williamson Act contract for farmland security zones, or farmland security zone for the reconfigured agricultural parcels, including 1 additional parcel, which is not part of the lot line adjustments, but is part of the existing contract. And that parcel is shown here in orange. And the project also includes the rescindment and exchange of an existing Land Conservation Act Williamson Act contract with a 10-year open space easement, and rescindment and exchange of an existing farmland security Williamson Act contract with a 20-year open space easement. Here is another view of the parcels with the aerial, so you can see the agricultural lands here. The historical Johnston Ranch is an 868-acre property that has been owned by Peninsula Open Space Trust since 2001. This property supports ongoing agricultural operations along its western boundary that we can see here. If you can see where Cabrillo Highway is located, it kind of runs all along that side. There's also portions that run along Higgins Canyon Road. Again, the properties are located on the east side of Cabrillo Highway. Parcels 1, 2, and 3 each have frontage along Higgins Canyon Road. Parcel 4 is also accessed from Higgins Canyon Road, but that is done via access easements. Arroyo Leon runs along the current eastern boundary of Parcel 1 and northern boundary of Parcel 3. The properties to the west of Parcels 1, 3, and 4 are located within the incorporated area of the city of Half Moon Bay, which is just, you can see along the top here, the unshaded. So staff reviewed the project for conformance with the county's general plan and found it to be consistent with the applicable policies, which are defined here. So soil resources seeks to protect productive soil resources against soil conversion, and then the rural land use policies, which encourage existing and potential agricultural activities, protection of agricultural lands, and have some criteria for the division of lands. The reconfigured parcels will consolidate the majority of the lands identified as prime ag lands on reconfigured parcels 1, 3, and 4 to ensure that the lands which are currently farmed remain under productive agricultural use. Staff would note that there were some inconsistent references in the staff report in regard to existing and reconfigured parcel 2, as it doesn't support row crops, but does support grazing on the northern portion of the parcel under an existing long-term grazing lease, and has the potential for reintroduction of grazing to the southern portion of the property below Higgins Canyon. Whoops, sorry, jumped ahead. And then in regard to the protection of agricultural lands, the parcels are currently designated as agricultural preserves as part of their previous contract adoptions, and they have executed farmland security zone and land conservation contracts in place. The existing contracts, as I mentioned, will be modified to continue to protect those areas. The areas which do not support row crops will be covered by an open space easement. The reconfigured farmland security zone contract will cover the majority of prime agricultural lands, including reconfigured parcels 1 and 4, and that orange parcel, which is 065-210-090. I apologize, these aren't addressed, so I don't have an address to refer to. And again, that parcel is not part of the lot line adjustment, but was included as in the original contract, so also needs to be amended under the proposal today. In terms of the criteria for division, because the project included a master land division plan, which confirmed designated use of the parcel, it retained areas containing soils with agricultural capability and appropriately sized parcels. The resulting parcel sizes are of adequate size to ensure continued agricultural productivity. And the project provides clearly defined buffer areas between agricultural and non-agricultural uses. Staff would like to add that the applicant has always included as part of the project that parcel 3, which is the smallest of the parcels, would be tied in perpetuity to reconfigured parcels 1 and 4 via a post-agricultural conservation easement. We didn't actually include this as a condition, but it would be good to memorialize it. So staff would like to recommend adding a new condition of approval that memorializes this requirement. So in terms of conformity with the local coastal program, because the project has different elements, I've kind of broken this up into 2 sections. So for the certificates of compliance, the policies that were applicable were the locating and planning new development policies, and that includes legalizing parcels and coastal development standards of review for legalizing parcels. So in this case, the certificate of compliance is required because the lot line adjustment requires that any reconfigurations are on legal parcels. And in this case, the type B went into place because the subject parcels were not yet conveyed separately in their current configurations until the late 1960s and 1990s. More specifically, parcel 2 was conveyed in 1969, parcel 3 in 1998, and parcel 4 in 1992. So pursuant to the certificate of compliance requirements and LCP policy 1.9, and also that a coastal development permit are all required. So that is being sought for parcels 2, 3, and 4. Parcel 1 is a legal parcel as it was part of a recorded subdivision application processed by the city of Half Moon Bay in 1989. And basically, we're just memorializing historical configurations of the parcels. There were several landowners that through time exchanged portions here or there, but these have generally been in this configuration since the late 1800s. In this case, for the lot line adjustment, a coastal development permit is not required because lot line adjustments do not meet the definition of development under policy 1.2, which specifically excludes them when they are part of public agency transfers. Right, so for the planned agricultural zoning district conformance, the project is also consistent with this planned agricultural district requirements, which seek to preserve and foster existing agricultural operations in order to keep in agricultural production the maximum amount of prime agricultural land and all other land suitable for agriculture. The majority of prime agricultural lands will be concentrated on 3 of the parcels and will continue in commercial agricultural operation. There are portions of prime, which I wanted to show because I think there may have been some confusion in the report. But from the applicant, we can see the existing parcel configuration and prime ag lands identified in sort of this yellow hatched area. So you can see most of that prime soil is going to be consolidated with the reconfiguration. There are some small portions that fall within Higgins Canyon Road, and under reconfigured parcel 2, there are existing grazing operations. So there is no prohibition that they do agriculture or they not do agriculture within the open space easements. That is definitely still included. But I made some references about that it would be unlikely to be farmed just because of the location and where it sort of hits in relationship to the road. So I want to show that. And then as part of the requirements, an agricultural land management plan has been provided, and it describes how the agricultural productivity of the land will be fostered and preserved. And then I have a second, kind of more zoomed in, but also shows these areas of prime from our mapping system. In terms of the subdivision regulations, as I mentioned, the lot line adjustment will adjust the boundaries between 4 parcels in order to optimize agricultural use by protecting cultivated farmland on parcels that can sustain agricultural activities, while encouraging grazing, pen space, and low intensity recreation uses on the parcels that are suitable for those uses. The reconfigured parcels conform to the regulations of the planned agricultural district and building regulations. There's no physical development proposed as part of the project. The reconfigured Williamson Act contracts will be modified to continue to protect those areas. The areas which do not support row crops will be covered by an open space easement, as I mentioned. And the reconfigured farmland security contract will cover the majority of the prime ag lands. So again, just to kind of show, so the reconfiguration of the parcels will move the boundary between 1 and 2 kind of over to the right and capturing what was that additional farmland. 4 will also move over to capture existing ag lands. And then parcel 2 will be enlarged to capture some grazing land with the lower portion, as I mentioned, which could be explored in the future, but only the existing grazing is occurring on this northern portion of Higgins Canyon. The parcel 3 that I mentioned, the smallest parcel, which I requested that we add that additional condition to memorialize it, that it should be conveyed jointly with the two other agricultural parcels is shown here. Let's see, sorry. And then, so for the, sorry. So as I mentioned, so no physical development is proposed as part of the project, and the reconfigured parcels are of adequate size and configuration to provide suitable building sites, even though none are required. It's actually a requirement of the lot line adjustment findings. The reconfigured sites provide for routine and emergency access. The provision of adequate water supply and sewage disposal has been conditioned as part of this project. The existing agricultural operations have do have existing water rights and reservoirs, which will continue to serve the agricultural uses. Any future development would be subject to securing its own water and or septic services. However, the resulting parcels are of size and configuration that accommodating these on-site improvements appears to be feasible. So for the certificates of compliance, again, kind of went over this, but just generally we found that the parcels were in the general configuration since creation, but that they had not been conveyed separately until well after 1945. And so for that reason, we are processing the certificates of compliance in conjunction with the lot line adjustment. And then for the Williamson Act program compliance, you can see the existing kind of Williamson Act contract configurations on this map, the red indicating the farmland security zones, and then the purple showing showing the existing 10-year Conservation Act parcels. The request to rescind and replace the existing contracts was found to be consistent with the agricultural preserve requirements of the California Land Conservation Act. The existing 224 acres of existing cultivated agricultural lands will be covered by a new 20-year farmland security zone contract and will continue in agricultural production. The 207 acres that comprise the northern portion of reconfigured parcel 2, sorry, here's the, I think this is probably more helpful, will be conveyed by a new 20-year open space easement, and the 227 acres, which will make up the southern portion of reconfigured parcel 2, will be covered by a new 10-year open space easement. Reconfigured parcel 2 will continue to support grazing on its northern portion and has the potential for reintroduction of grazing to the southern portion, but will allow the parcel to remain largely as open space with the potential of low intensity public recreation in the future. The Agricultural Advisory Committee reviewed the request at their February 14, 2022 meeting, and they continued the item to conduct site visits for those members that were interested. The Agricultural Advisory Committee then re-reviewed the project at their March 14th, 2022 meeting and recommended approval. So again, just the general findings.
If you do not authorize this order, press 1 or press 2 to authorize this order.
Sorry. And then in terms of the Environmental Quality Act, the project was found to be categorically exempt pursuant to the provisions of Class 2, Section 15305, which are minor alterations to land use, and also under Class 17, which Section 15317, which has to do with open space contracts or easements, which exempts minor lot line adjustments and the establishment and changes to agricultural preserves. I do want to take a second before providing, moving on to the recommendation, to just provide a few final points of clarification. After publication, we did realize that there was an insert for an attachment F. There was no attachment F. So unfortunately, this just didn't get deleted prior to publication. And as part of that issue, the statement of current agricultural uses was separated from the supplemental statement, which is included as attachment D. So there is a breakdown of the current agricultural uses and that we did review, as well as the Agricultural Advisory Committee. It is provided, unfortunately just got detached, so that can be found on page 111 of the PDF if you're viewing the report online. The project description and the agenda notice included the non-renewal of some Williamson Act contracts. However, because these are requested by the property owner and are not initiated by the county, they don't actually require consideration. So this is a ministerial act. And so therefore was not included in the staff report and why it's no longer part of your consideration. And then finally, the report has some inconsistent references regarding what we're asking you to do today. So one, in certain parts, it refers to you making a decision, and in others, it asks you for a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. So while generally certificates of compliance and lot line adjustments are projects that you would render a decision on, because the project includes the contract amendments, which do require final approval by the board, we are asking you for your recommendation of these items to the board. So just,
Angela, I'm
yeah.
sorry that I'm having to interrupt you at this point because this has been somewhat of a confusing matter, and I think that based on the most recent discussions we've had with the applicant, we actually would like to intend to keep the pieces separate. So the actions that the Planning Commission is empowered to approve today will be approved. The actions that require a final authorization by the Board of Supervisors, the Planning Commission is being asked to make a recommendation to the board. So apologize for the confusion there, but I think what that boils down to is the Planning Commission will be, if you accept the staff recommendation, approving the lot line adjustment and the certificates of compliance, and you will be making a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors on the William Act contract. Did I get that right, Angela?
I think that was the way we initially approached it. If something
Right.
changed, then
yeah, that's the way. I think based on my consultation with council, we're going to retain that approach. So
okay.
I know there's been some back and forth on that, so I apologize for that. And let me take this opportunity to just take a step back. And that was a lot of information thrown at the Planning Commission and the public. And there's a couple key points that I'd like you to take away. And number one is this project doesn't involve any structural development at this time or a change in use. What we're talking about is reorganizing the boundary lines of certain parcels to better facilitate continued agricultural use and to actually allow one of the active farmers to purchase one of the lands. It also allows for the potential for in the future for some limited passive recreational use, which will be subject to future permit actions. So basically what's happening is in the interest of facilitating agriculture and the potential for future passive recreational use, changing the boundaries triggers another a number of other requirements. First, before you can change the boundary of a lot, we need to confirm that it's a legal lot. So that's where the certificates of compliance come in. And then if you're going to change the boundary of lots that are subject to a contract, Williamson Act contract, you're going to need to clean up that contract as well. So that's where the Williamson Act contract amendments come in. So there's a lot of pieces to this project, but the most important thing I think for the commission to know that it's all about facilitating continued agricultural use and for allowing for the potential for future passive recreational use. So just wanted to give you that overview. I would also note that the applicants have requested certain clarifications to the staff report, which I believe Angela covered in her presentation for the most part, but I've gone through the requested clarifications the applicant has requested, and they all look acceptable to me. There's really no change in substance. It's just clarifying certain statements in the report. So, and I'll let the applicant in their presentation highlight those clarifications. So back to you, Angela, for the recommendation.
We would just modify for number one that based on Steve's information that would be a decision and not a recommendation to the board. And then 2 and 3 would remain as recommendations to the Board of Supervisors on the contract amendments. So I can leave this up if that's helpful or come back to it at the end. But basically that concludes my presentation, and I'm available if you have questions this morning.
Yeah, thank you, Angela, for your presentation. That's a great presentation, and even though it's quite a bit of information process. And thank you, Steve, for the clarification on that. With that, I'm going to see if the commissioners have questions for staff at this time. Commissioner Ketchum?
No questions from me, thanks.
Commissioner Gupta?
Just a brief question. Are the parcels going to be renumbered in any way?
They will be eventually renumbered, but for just ease, we basically numbered them as part of the application and kept those numbers moving forward so that you could kind of figure out what changes were which, but they will receive new parcel numbers as part of the lot line adjustment.
Yeah, because then many years down the line, nobody cares how they were reconfigured.
Right. You know, that's definitely part of the lot line adjustment process. We just named them for ease, so we didn't have to, recite the full 9 numbers for each parcel over and over again.
Okay. That's all I have. I'll wait for the applicant to present their part before asking any further question. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gupta. Commissioner Hanson?
Steve, did I hear you right say one of the parcels could be bought by one of the current users of it?
Well, I was just looking at the letter that we received from Mid-Penn and Post, and it states in the first paragraph the purpose of the project, and it states that it facilitates the ability of the farmer to purchase productive agricultural land. I don't know who that person is or if they're currently farming the land, so perhaps the applicant can shed more light.
Parcel? Future parcel that would be?
Do you know, Angela?
That would be parcels 1. Sorry, I don't want to misspeak. Let me just go back really quick. So reconfigured parcels 1 and 4 and then 3.
Okay, that helps me a lot. Thank you.
You're welcome.
More questions?
Okay, I don't have any more questions either. This time, can we have the applicant do their presentation?
Angela, is that Mike Williams?
Yes, sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. Okay, you should be over shortly.
Good morning, commissioners. My name is Mike Williams. I'm the real property manager with Mid-Peninsula Open Space District, and I'm here with Ben Wright, who is the land transaction director with Post. And this is a complicated project. Angela, I'll just keep it simple because I think staff did a really good presentation on this project. If you could bring that map back up, I'll just make a couple of comments and one clarification. Okay, so this item came before the Planning Commission last September, and the commission made a finding that Mid-Penn's purchase of the uplands portion of the properties, the non-cultivated lands, conform with the county's general plan. And so we're here today as co-applicants with a lot line adjustment to create farm parcels, including the agricultural cultivated fields and the reservoirs, the irrigation reservoirs, for future private farm ownership, as shown in parcels 1, 3, and 4. And the farming family that has been on this property since the late 1940s farming is the Giusti family. And then the uplands parcels are parcel 2, which is combined parcel on both the north and the south side of Higgins Canyon Road. And there is a grazing operation on the north side of the road, as mentioned by staff. The south side of the road has been fallow for over 20 years. It does not have grazing infrastructure, but could potentially be reintroduced for grazing. And then ultimately for future compatible public trail use on the property, which would need to come before the county at that time. And just one clarifying comment I'd like to make is that the small parcel 3 would be tied to either parcel 1 or parcel 4 in the agricultural conservation easement. And that's my brief presentation. And I wanted to thank Angela and Steve for a very complete presentation.
Thank you. Do you have another person that is going to present?
Ben Wright is present with Post. If you have any questions that I'm not able to answer, Ben can answer as well.
Okay, got it. So at this time, I think we can go to see if we have questions for the applicants. Commissioner Gupta.
We had received this correspondence from Soluri Reserve Law Corporation. And they had pointed out many things here. I don't totally understand all of those, but they were very concerned about this project. And I'm wondering who's the right person to address those issues.
If I may, through the chair, I think that'll be a group of us, but as I am not only the lawyer for the Planning Commission, but also counsel of record in the lawsuit brought by the Farm Bureau against the county in Sacramento Superior Court over amendments to the LCP, I can provide some context about that letter, and then maybe we can talk about which of the concerns you're most interested in hearing about. So as you may know, the Board of Supervisors adopted modifications to the local coastal program affecting the requirements for land divisions when pursued by land trusts such as Mid-Penn on agricultural lands. And the intention of those amendments was to make it possible for agencies like Mid-Penn to better allocate the configuration of parcels between agricultural uses and passive recreational uses, so that they could serve the public and protect agriculture at the same time without being subjected to the same requirements that are imposed on private owners that have more of a profit motive for the pursuit of the way in which they conduct their operations. So that lawsuit is still pending, and it's actually against the Coastal Commission for its certification of the local coastal program amendments rather than against the county directly. And the law firm from whom you received this letter is the law firm for the Farm Bureau in that litigation. So the two issues are at least somewhat related. And I reviewed the letter and understand it essentially to be a request on the part of the Farm Bureau that conditions be imposed on your approval that are not recommended by staff. They are conditions that would relate to imposing conservation easements on your approval in a way that, at least as the LCP currently reads, aren't necessarily required. And then in addition, there were two points raised about the CEQA exemptions that were recommended by staff for the approvals that you're being asked to make today. I can address those as well. First off, there's a statement that the CEQA exemption for minor alterations to land use limitations shouldn't apply here because in the view of the Farm Bureau, this is not a minor lot line adjustment. I don't share their interpretation. The term minor lot line adjustment is not well defined in the CEQA regulations, but really there's no such thing as a distinction between a minor lot line adjustment and a major lot line adjustment, except as provided in the Subdivision Map Act, where you count the number of parcels that are implicated by the adjustment. And here, because 4 parcels are affected by the lot line adjustment, and it's not, the history of when the CEQA exemption adopted the term minor lot line adjustment versus when the Subdivision Map Act started to draw a distinction between lot line adjustments implicating 4 or fewer parcels or 5 or more parcels makes it clear to me that the exemption is applicable here if you wish to rely upon it. And then the second objection is that the recommendation with regard to the Williamson Act contract in the view of the Farm Bureau shouldn't be relied upon here because in their view, the total acreage that's subject to the contract is not equal, and therefore, in their view, the exemption shouldn't apply. First off, your recommendation is not the final action with regard to that component of the project. You're making a recommendation on the Williamson Act contract, not taking final action, because only the board can take final action with regard to Williamson Act contracts. So your recommendation is only that. And secondly, I just don't agree that the exemption impliedly requires that the amount of land subject to the protection always be equal. It says that entry into Williamson Act contracts is an exempt activity. Outright rescission of Williamson Act contracts is expressly called out as not exempt. So in that binary calculation between which of these two things is it, I think it falls within the exemption, and you can rely upon the exemption to take your action today. So that's my take on the issues raised by the letter, and I'm happy to address anything that you think I've not covered.
No, I'm happy that you have had a chance to look at it and to explain to us that we are okay so we as commissioners know what we are here to approve.
Well, I want to be clear. I'm answering the question, and I know that there are likely representatives of the Farm Bureau that will wish to speak during public comment. And so I don't want you to reach a final conclusion about any of the issues raised by that letter until all public comment has been received and concluded. So I just wanted to take the opportunity, since you asked who among us was going to address it, just be clear that your deliberation on these issues is something that should occur after you've heard from both sides.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fox.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. You know, I really always appreciate, you know, giving us, you know, the breakdown of how these things actually work. Because I think for, you know, the legalities that we are not experts on sometimes can be a little confusing. With that, I will ask Ms. Ketchum. You have questions?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hanson?
No questions.
Okay. I just have one little question in regards to the what's it called? The way that it's going to be used. What's the term? Well, I'll come back to it. I think right now it skipped my mind. With that, I think we can open it up now for public comment. Janet, do we have? I assume we have people waiting.
Yeah, so this is public comment for item number 4. And right now I do see one hand raised for James Crowder. Give me one second while I put on my timer. And that's all I have for now. So we'll take it a few seconds if, there you go. A couple more hands were raised now, so.
Yep.
Hold on. Okay. Mr. Crowder, go ahead, unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Good morning, can y'all hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Good morning, Chair Ramirez and other commissioners. My name is James Crowder. I'm an attorney at Solari Meserve here in Sacramento. And as y'all heard earlier, we represent the San Mateo County Farm Bureau. On Monday, we did submit a detailed letter to the commission detailing our opposition to the current lot line adjustment. I'm following up on that letter to highlight a couple of the main points that we'd like y'all to consider here today. First, we believe that the CEQA exemptions that are cited in the staff report and supplemental statements just don't apply. I would like to take this time to respectfully disagree with Mr. Fox. CEQA guidelines allow for exemptions for minor lot line adjustments, but if you read those guidelines, those lot line adjustments, the examples given are side yard adjustments and setback variances. And that seems a lot different than what y'all are being asked to reconfigure today, which is hundreds of acres that redraw 4 different parcels. So we believe that this is anything but a minor adjustment. Additionally, we don't believe that the other exemptions apply because under CEQA, if you are attempting to use an exemption, there are exceptions to those exemptions. And one of those exceptions is that the project has unusual circumstances, which y'all just saw through Ms. Chavez's presentation. There's a lot going on here that make this unusual for a lot line adjustment. Additionally, we believe that there are environmental impacts that this lot line adjustment would result in, such as loss of ag land. The second, and we think more importantly, is kind of the underlying problem of this project, and that's the continual fragmentation of agricultural land in San Mateo County. As y'all heard in Ms. Chavez's presentation, there are multiple areas of prime ag land that are now not going to be under a Williamson Act contract. Instead, it'll be under an open space easement, which is important because many of the ag specific protections won't be there. Additionally, Ms. Chavez and Mr. Monowitz continually pointed out that, if this happens or this occurs, all these what ifs, then there could be ag protections from this project. And, that's just not what the Farm Bureau is hoping for, Frankly, in 2004, the Farm Bureau entered into a memorandum of understanding with Mid-Penn. And in that memorandum of understanding, one of the mitigation measures for projects just like this was to provide permanent protection to ag land. And as Mr. Fox said, the current LCP is being reconfigured so that those types of protections are no longer in the LCP either. But we believe that the purpose of the MOU was to permanently protect ag land. Now, as y'all heard, there will be various contracts on this land for 10, 20 years, and that's fine. But then what? As previously talked about by Mr. Williams there, is, the folks farming that land been there since the 40s, but they haven't bought it yet. And so now they're going to be required to buy it to hang on to that. So really, all we're asking for y'all today is to consider the lack of permanent protections here. And we would like to see the Planning Commission deny this request, send it back to staff, and put conditions on that require permanent enforceable protections, such as agricultural easements that don't require someone to purchase that land. Additionally, now that we have this new news, we request that the Commission does not recommend this project to the Board of Supervisors. I'd also like to end by saying that the Farm Bureau is more than willing to work with everyone here to ensure that agricultural operations can continue in San Mateo County for future generations. So I really want to thank y'all for y'all's time today, and I hope y'all have a good rest of y'all's day.
Thank you, Mr. Crowder. I'll next call on Lenny Roberts. Ms. Roberts, please unmute your microphone and begin speaking.
Good morning. I'm unmuted, I think.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, commissioners. I'm Lenny Roberts. I'm speaking for Green Foothills. I support the staff recommendation and as modified, and I just want to remind you that this 862 acre parcel, the Johnston Ranch, which was formerly called the Casanelli Ranch, has been fortunately preserved by Post, who stepped in after voters in San Mateo County defeated a preposterous proposal by some developers to exempt this land from the Measure A, which the voters of San Mateo County had passed in 1986. The developers who purchased this property wanted to exempt it from Measure A because they had a plan to put in golf course and condos and other urban development, essentially creating an extension of the city of Half Moon Bay out into these prime ag lands. Green Foothills and the farm family, a Giusti family, had opposed also some other inappropriate land uses on this land that was adjacent to his operations when the city of Half Moon Bay was trying to put ball fields in the middle of the agricultural land. So this has a long history of people with eyes on the prize of development here, but Post fortunately was able to acquire the property from the developers when the voters roundly defeated the ballot measure that they had put on in 1992, I believe it was, Measure D. So there's been a long history of Post working with the Giusti family farmers to conserve this land and to provide support for the agricultural operations. So in this case, the productive agricultural land will remain with Post and eventually be sold to the farmer at an agricultural price. And the rest of the land will be transferred to the open space district, which will provide low intensity trails in hopefully appropriate locations that respect the farming operations and also stay out of the sensitive habitats, which is something that we've been working with Mid-Penn on. So this lot line adjustment facilitates both of those outcomes, and in a way that is going to preserve the ongoing agricultural operations, including the grazing operations that are on the non-prime ag lands. So I just wanted to speak in support of this application and commend both the district and Post, and note that the district, by terms of their agreement with the annexation of the coastal area to the district, attends the Farm Bureau meetings regularly and keeps them wholly informed as to what the district is doing. And I also note that the Ag Advisory Committee voted to support this. And the Ag Advisory Committee is the official advisory board to the Board of Supervisors and by implication, the Planning Commission. The Farm Bureau is a private entity that represents landowners and some farmers, but not all of them. So I just wanted to clarify that for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Roberts. I will next call on Zoe Christine Tucker. Please unmute your microphone and begin speaking. Zoe. Zoe.
Here we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Okay, good morning. My name is Zoe Christine Tucker. I am the president of the Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District Board of Directors. Good morning to my colleagues, past colleagues on the Planning Commission, to Mr. Monowitz and Mr. Fox. It's a pleasure to be here this morning and to speak in favor of this very important project. Since 2004, Mid-Penn has worked with its many partners on the coastside and in the county and region to develop and enact policies and procedures which support our coastside mission, which is to acquire and preserve in perpetuity open space and agricultural lands of regional significance, to preserve the rural character of the coast, to encourage viable agricultural use of land resources, and to provide opportunities for ecologically sensitive public enjoyment and education. We recognize the importance of the county's ag heritage, but also know that the world is changing, which demands new thinking, new strategies, new partnerships, new ways of tending these precious working lands in our county. The Johnston Ranch project that is before you today is a showcase for the way in which we work to preserve and protect these lands in the face of relentless development pressure here on the continental edge and on the edge of Silicon Valley. It's complicated. The world is complicated now. It's complicated by a changing climate, by an increasingly complicated regulatory environment, and by the ever-present desire for people to carve up agricultural lands and turn them into little luxury estates. It's taken a long time to get to where we are today with our partners, our esteemed partners, Post and the city of Half Moon Bay, and our many other partners in the ag community here on the coast. I read the Farm Bureau's letter several times and will admit I found it entirely baffling. I am baffled that this organization is not standing shoulder to shoulder with us and with Post and working together with us to preserve these lands, to support these families who are scraping hard to make a living and to provide food for our tables. We trust that the Farm Bureau will evolve with time, but alas, I believe that many or some of the members are perhaps yearning for a bygone era when agriculture was simpler than it is today. Nonetheless, as Ms. Roberts mentioned, we're very grateful that the county's Ag Advisory Committee recognizes the importance of this project and has approved it. So the project before you today is intended to facilitate and support two important types of agriculture. Our conservation and grazing program on the uplands with Tommy Pacheco and his daughter, who have been doing this work on the land for a long time and would love to continue there. And with the Juisties, who are farming the lowlands where the majority of the prime ag lands are. If approved, a farmer will have the opportunity to own the land they have managed for decades. And our grazing tenants will continue to have access to the same or perhaps even additional lands for their important conservation grazing program. This project meets both the letter and the intent of the county's commitment to protecting agricultural lands. And we are incredibly proud to be where we are at today with this, and understand, and we hope you understand too, that the work that we're presenting, that the district is presenting along with Post, is intended to ensure that agriculture continues to thrive and flourish on the San Mateo County coast. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe, for your comments. Janet?
I was on mute. I was talking away and I was like, wait, how come no one hears me?
Yeah.
I don't see any more hands raised, Chair, for public comment. I do see that we have Ben Wright on the panelist side wanting to say something, but nothing has been raised for now.
Okay, then we should probably close public comments at this time. Do we have a motion to close public participation at this time?
Mr. Chair, I just want to make sure that Mr. Wright has an opportunity to speak.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
but
Okay.
because he's a panelist, I will bring him in after we close public participation.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah.
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Janet, please do a roll call.
Commissioner Hanson,
Aye.
Commissioner Gupta,
Aye.
Commissioner Ketchum,
Aye.
Chair Ramirez.
Aye.
Public comment is now closed.
Okay. Motion carries unanimously. Public comments is closed now for this item. At this time, I can bring in Mr. Ben Wright.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. So I'll be brief. I wanted to make sure to thank county staff as well. Post and Mid-Penn have been working on preparing this application for the past 5 years and working carefully to bring forward a project that preserves the agricultural and conservation values of this important property. And we appreciated the feedback from the Agricultural Advisory Committee and their vote of support. For folks who don't know, Post, or Peninsula Open Space Trust, is a nonprofit land trust formed in 1977, which protects open space on the peninsula and in the South Bay for the benefit of all. And we've been preserving ranches and farms on the San Mateo coast for nearly 35 years and aligning very closely with Mid-Penn's mission and goals. Post has owned the Johnson Ranch property for more than 20 years. And in all cases, when we have transferred farms to farmers, we have done so with conservation easements held by Post that protect those properties in perpetuity. We believe that farms are best suited to be owned and managed by farmers, We also have a robust stewardship program for monitoring and enforcing conservation easements to ensure permanent protection. And our goals with this project now remain consistent with the goals Post had in the original purchase to preserve the farming and ranching lands of this iconic property and to enhance the public benefit that it provides. The proposed lot line adjustments will shift parcel boundaries from the arbitrary lines of past development efforts to better agriculturally focused configuration that supports the current use, preserves the agricultural heritage of Johnson Ranch, and ensures the land's continued agricultural use into the future. And just appreciate all your time reviewing the project. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, at this time, let's see if we have any additional questions from commissioners. Commissioner Gupta.
Yeah, I think both applicants, Mr. Williams as well as Mr. Wright, has put forward a very good proposal here. In my mind, of course, our planner did an excellent job of presenting the project. I frankly do not have any question. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Hanson.
I don't have any questions. I do like the idea of the lot line transfer. I think it actually makes more sense because it actually moves the reservoirs with the irritable crops and ties things better together. So I'm in support of this.
Mrs. Ketchum.
I too support this enthusiastically, and I do have a question. So the motion that we have, it's numbered. Are these going to be 3 separate votes, or is this all one motion, all 3?
One motion, all 3, and just a note on that first aspect of the recommendation. I think it's written as if you were making a recommendation to the board, whereas you're actually taking action on the lot line adjustment and certificate of compliance.
Yes. So I'm prepared to make the motion if.
Yeah. Give me a second. Give me a second on that. So what I was trying to ask a little while ago that I couldn't come up with the right question is the one thing that I haven't that wasn't very clear to me as far as the light recreational use. What does that mean? What are we going to use it for with regards to the light recreational use? Can anyone explain?
Well, I'll take a crack at it and leave it up to the commissioners if you want more information from the applicants. But traditionally, we call light recreation or passive recreation pretty much hiking, where it's, very little, if any, change to the landscape. And it involves activities that are compatible with wildlife and agriculture. So it would be things like hiking trails where they can be sited in a way that doesn't interfere with natural resources or agricultural production.
Okay. Well, yeah, that explains. I'm just thinking, because I mean, you could do a rave concert out there and call it a light recreational use. So that's why.
Not under our watch. No, you couldn't.
Okay, got it. All right. Then my comment on this is that I'm going to support it because I believe that Post, as it was, as I've seen over the years, they're a very responsible organization that what they're doing is trying to preserve land for agriculture and for people to be able to go out there and enjoy the land and the wilderness that we have out here in the county. So I don't see any inconsistencies on what we have before us with regards to the mission of POST. So I think we can go ahead and do the recommendation and move it then to the Board of Supervisors for their approval too. So with that, I will contemplate a motion now for the item.
Okay, I make the following motion. Number 1, approves the coastal development permit and planned agricultural district permits, certificates of compliance type B and lot line adjustment, and recommend that the Board of Supervisors approve county file. Is that also approved? Sorry. Lot line adjustment and approve county file number PLN 2021-00381 by making the required findings and adopting the conditions of approval listed in attachment A of the staff report. Number 2, recommend that the Board of Supervisors find the rescission and replacement of land conservation and farmland security zone contracts on the subject 4 parcels to facilitate a lot line adjustment between the same parcels is consistent with the county general plan, the local coastal program, and planned agricultural district, coastal district zoning district regulations, the Land Conservation Act, and Board of Supervisors Resolution number 72854 relating to the implementation of the California Land Conservation Program in San Mateo County. And number 3, recommend that the Board of Supervisors adopt a resolution to rescind the existing California land conservation and farmland security zone contracts that cover 5 parcels and replace with a farmland security zone contract on 4 of the parcels and California open space easements on 1 of the parcels.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Janet, could you do the roll call, please?
Commissioner Hanson,
Aye.
Commissioner Gupta,
Aye.
Commissioner Ketchum,
Aye.
Chair Ramirez.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
All right, the motion carries unanimously. The project is now approved. And with that, thank you everyone who participated, and Angela, thank you for your presentation. With that, we can move on. So item number 5 is postponed. So we now have item number 6, correspondence and other matters.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a note to the participants, the Planning Commission's decision to approve the coastal permit lot line adjustments and certificates of compliance, that decision is appealable to the Board of Supervisors. So moving on to correspondence, you received a number of letters regarding today's items, but nothing other than that. So unless there's questions about the letters you received, I'll move on to the next item.
Sure, consideration of study session for next meeting.
Yes, we're not recommending a study session for next meeting. We currently have 2 items on the agenda. One is a general plan amendment, zoning amendment, grading permit, and subdivision for a 35,000 square foot parcel that was recently detached from the town of Atherton on Palmer Lane in North Fair Oaks. The second item is a Caltrans project to repair an eroding embankment near Highway 1, just south of the Año Nuevo State Park entrance.
Okay, director's report.
Yes, moving on to the director's report. I wanted to let you know that at the last Board of Supervisors meeting, Will Gibson presented an information item on the housing element. It went smoothly, still a lot of work to occur on that. And in that regard, he will be before the Mid-Coast Community Council tonight presenting our approach to addressing that housing element update, which I believe is streamed live in case any of you want to tune into that. Let's see. The second thing I wanted to let you know is at the next board meeting on June 16th, we'll be asking the board to support a resolution for a grant application to prepare a transportation demand management approach for dealing with the mid-coast area. So it's a part of the work that we're doing as part of Connect the Coast Side. Transportation demand management is about trying to control traffic, particularly during congested times, to minimize congestion. So there's a grant opportunity to look at innovative ways to do that. And so we're pleased to try and obtain some funds to facilitate those efforts. Finally, I wanted to come back to the option of conducting in-person meetings, hybrid meetings. The Board of Supervisors has successfully implemented this approach at least twice so far. And I believe that staff is in a position to support the commission should you desire to start these hybrid meetings. So I would put it before you to talk about if and when you would like to initiate such an approach. So I'll leave that up to you, Chair, to facilitate that conversation. And that concludes my report today.
All right, thanks. Any commissioners updates or questions?
I got one.
Go ahead.
Reading the local paper on our last meeting, you know, I talked about North Fair Oaks as being underparked, and I realized I was talking about trees and plants, and they thought I was talking about parking. So I would just want to make it clear that I was talking about being underparked as not enough recreational opportunities. Now, it doesn't mean I disagree that we have a parking problem that needs to be resolved. But what I was talking about at the time was green stuff.
Yeah, but I agree with you, but I would say it's both actually. Yes.
Yes.
For
But
sure.
at the time, I was really talking about that. And
yeah, I know. Yeah.
if people walk away thinking I was really also talking about cars. I wasn't, but I wasn't also disagreeing with what they said.
Right. Yeah. Great. Anybody else has anything to add from commissioners?
Go ahead.
Ms. Gupta, go ahead.
Regarding hybrid meetings or holding meetings in the chambers, is there anything special being done in the room? In cleansing?
Yes, Commissioner Gupta, I am not clear exactly how they're managing the meeting space. From what I can tell, I've been participating remotely, and
Okay.
you can see the room on the video. And what I can tell you is it's been very sparsely populated. There's been very few people in person attending. So if you're thinking about, preventing too many people gathering too closely, I don't think that's been an issue. And I would suspect, but I'm not familiar with the details, that there are some controls to prevent that from happening.
Any dividers between?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I think that the likely approach would be to try and block off certain seats so nobody could sit too closely with each other. But I'll have to get more information about how that's handling. But certainly, should we go to hybrid meetings, maintaining the safety of the commissioners and the participating public will certainly be on our minds, and we'll be careful about managing that.
Okay. And is the parking permits that we have been given, those would still apply? Is there still some place for commissioners to park?
That's my understanding. I don't believe there's been any changes to that.
Okay, thank you.
I noticed there's a new place to park.
Oh, yes. Well, there happens to be a very large new parking garage.
Yeah.
That's for employees primarily.
The one time I came down there and I used my parking permit, they told me it wasn't valid and just left me a warning notice. So I don't know what that means.
Okay, well, you probably have a separate type of permit than staff do. And so in that large parking garage, you're supposed to have a staff parking permit. The type of permit you have is good, I believe, for the spots labeled for commissioners.
Yes, and that's where I parked.
Oh, that's where you parked. Oh, well then, Janeth, let's follow up with Public Works on making sure that we have.
Maybe they were so used not seeing it, they didn't know what I had. It's been quite a few years, but it's a new location, and it's it's not next to the school day care center anymore.
Right.
We'll get some clarification and let you know.
Yeah, actually, that would be great if you could let us know exactly where this is, because I don't want to spend too much time looking for it.
It's not hard to find. It's just nobody else is us parking there. That's for sure.
Got it. Yeah, so we should. Lisa, I think you had questions, Lisa.
Minor thing here. So may we please receive draft minutes by the time staff reports are posted and have revisions posted with adequate time to review them before the meeting?
We can certainly aim for that. I think that's a reasonable request, and we should be able to meet that in most cases. The only caveat I say is that if you're talking about revisions to staff reports or recommendations, sometimes, no, you're talking about revisions to minutes, only minutes only. Yeah, I think that's fair. I was just going to say sometimes revisions to staff reports are due to last minute, correspondence from applicants or others. So that's more difficult, but I think we can do it for the minutes.
Yeah, and I understand when correspondence comes in late, and it's important to read that before the meeting. And so, evening, the night before and the morning of, I would have time to certainly read correspondence, but that is way too stressful to be looking at the minutes and up late or up, it's just more than happy to be involved with this, but give me a break. So, and the other thing is more than half of the 2022 Planning Commission meetings don't have their video posted on the meeting page. Can we get those posted?
Absolutely. I'm not sure what happened with that, but Janeth and I will follow up for sure.
Thanks very much. That's all I have.
Yeah, and I would echo Lisa's comment on that. I mean, in general, I've always not liked receiving, especially like really large correspondence the day of, the day before, or with sometimes you do have to look at and research quite a bit, and it leaves you without the time to do all of that. I think in the minutes, not so much, but like we just received this last email that we received yesterday that had a lot of information in it that was very difficult to get into it and really dissect what they were talking about. So, and I've in the past, I've asked of anybody to please try to get us most of that information on the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, so that we still have some time to digest what has come through. But anyway, that's my personal take on that also. So I have a question then for commissioners. When would you like to start doing in person?
Well, let me just say that me personally, where I had to leave home by 7:10 a.m. to make the Planning Commission meeting, and everything else that needs to be considered, I'm quite reluctant to show up myself in person.
Now, I would just note that some supervisors elect to participate remotely as well with the Board of Supervisors. So I don't think that there's an expectation that all commissioners need to be present if we go to the hybrid meeting approach.
Thank you.
Okay.
In actuality, the June 22nd one, I'll probably be in Oregon, so I could do remote easily. So also being, I guess, officially elderly, since I'm 70 this year, you know, I do avoid crowds. You know, if I knew that place was going to be packed, I would feel more comfortable being remotely. I also enjoy the participation of the coast side for coast side issues. I feel like we're getting better representation with the remote on the coast side. And I do like that. But I also at the same time miss the interactions of a crowd, because you can tell when you're talking to your audience whether you connected and made your issue, or you didn't make an issue, or you missed the issue. You know, there's a dynamic that is missing, and I, I have Asperger's, and that part of the element, I can't pick up all the time in dialogue, but I can see in people's faces that I missed an idea or I didn't connect with an idea. So I'm torn and mixed on this.
Yep, got it. Yeah, I'm good either way now. I think either to go and show up in person or continue to do, remotely. So yeah, so I don't know if we're gonna decide anything right now, but I think
what I'm hearing, Chair, is that Commissioner Hanson will only be able to participate remote on the 22nd, and Commissioner Ketchum's preference is to participate remotely. And to do it for the first June meeting would be a quick turnaround time for us. So why don't we, if it's okay with you and the rest of the commission, tentatively consider some time in July, maybe the first or second meeting, and we can continue the conversation at our
next meeting. Yeah. What
right.
do we do?
Yes,
Yeah.
I am not anytime soon planning to be there in person. Just like Commissioner Ketchum mentioned, I have to leave home at 7:30 to be there for the 9 o'clock meeting because traffic is so bad. And also COVID hasn't gone away for me.
Yeah.
My husband just got it. And I'm making sure I don't get it this time, at least. Later,
Yeah.
I don't know. Right.
All right. So in that case, then let's continue the conversation and see where we go here in the next few meetings. All right. Okay. Then I'm going to say that this meeting is adjourned at this time.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Good to see everybody.
Good to see you.
See ya.